Peace and love to the people out there. I'm here. This video is going to be called Astrology in the Bible. I'm just giving you guys some little things that occur in the Bible and astrology and the Zodiac and all that stuff. So, first thing I want to go over is the Holy Bible. So, in Greek, Bible, the Holy Bible, is actually translated to Helios Biblios, which means sun book. So, when you go by that, you understand that already we're referring to this book being an astrological tale of something. Stories inside. It's all allegorical. So you can't take anything serious. Right? And if you see me to my side, I'm just going over my notes that I had down here. And so, as I was saying, the sun is very important in astrology. It's one of the main things. The sun gives life. The sun rotates through all of the Zodiac signs. And so I'm going to give you guys some couple of examples here in a minute. So the first thing we're going to go over is the precession of the equinox. Now, if you don't know what that is, you can Google it, try to learn it. Basically, the zodiac signs go backwards instead of forwards. So what we learn is that it's roughly 26,000 years, 25,600 to 25,900, the sun goes through what we call like a great year, or as they say, it goes through the heavens in the full rotation. It takes 26,000 years roughly, give or take. And so this is called the precession of equinoxes. And each section has what they call an age. And each age is roughly 2,160 years or so, give or take. I don't know. But it depends on the site you look at or the information you get. And these ages that they go through continually go and go and go until the great year is completed and it starts back over. The year actually is supposed to start in Virgo, which would be September. So that's when that year actually is supposed to start. But everything got switched up. So each month that we have corresponds to a zodiac sign, right? I'm a Capricorn. My birthday's in December, right? So these months and these different signs correspond to their months, and in ancient times they used these months and these zodiacs for their stories. So basically, like I have here, you guys remember, because we're referring to the Bible. So you guys know how they talk about how Jesus and how he was born of a virgin, and he, he's the Son of God, right? Well, this is all allegorical, right? Because in ancient Egypt, they didn't use Jesus' name because obviously his name wasn't back then, but they used whatever gods they were worshiping or believing in. And they took that God and put it into the story or in those characters. And basically, when Virgo came around, it was a time of harvest. So they made up the story that they use now for Jesus. And so, to go more in depth with that, Jesus is the Son. Now, not the Son of God, because there's no Son of God. The Son, actually, like what you see up in the sky. Jesus is the Son. His mom was a virgin, right? Virgin Mary. Virgin comes from the word Virgo. Virgo also means virgin, right? So if you look up the sign for If you look up the sign for Virgo, you will see it looks like an M. All ancient, all the ancient civilizations, whenever they talk about Virgo, you see the M. They knew that was a symbolic for what they were believing in and what they did back then. Stars and everything was very important to them back then. So Jesus the Son moved into the constellation Virgo, Virgin Mary, and when it got in there, they used that story to talk about the time for harvest and new food and new life. So that's where that came from. If you go back to ancient Egypt, probably can figure out even more from further back than ancient Egypt, because that's not the only ancient civilization out there. This is the one that I know the most about. So moving on from that part, let's talk more about Jesus. So if you guys have ever pulled up the Last Supper picture and actually looked at it in detail, kind of like I guess if you're like an artist's eye, you can look at it. You would see the astrology within that picture. Okay, so basically, from left to right, Jesus in the middle. Jesus is the Sun, S-U-N. Okay, He's the sun. Each of his 12 disciples, every 3 represents a season, right? I don't know the specific which one's which. I know Judas is a Scorpio, so I'm guessing right next to Jesus to his right would be fall and then winter. Somebody goes spring, summer, fall, winter, just like that. And each disciple is a sign. Now there's 11 guys, 1 girl. Yes, 1 girl disciple. I'm not sure which Mary it was, but I believe it was Mary because she's the Virgin of Virgo. She's that sign, so it was that. So if we look at it, we have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, which is spring. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, which is summer. Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, which is fall. And then we have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, which is winter. I don't know which disciple is which sign. I will have to look more into that. But each of these disciples, every 3 of them consist of a season. And you can definitely look it up and do your own research, and you'll find that it'll blow your mind. And if you look at it, they're hand symbols. So a big thing back in the Renaissance, yes, it was the Renaissance when they were repainting and creating so much art back then. You had Da Vinci. Da Vinci created the Last Supper. Da Vinci was a 33-degree Mason, right? Being a 33-degree Mason, he had access to the Vatican, which means he knew things that were beyond what other people knew. That's why he added the finger symbolism into the picture. Look at the picture, zoom in, you'll see that each different disciple has a hand gesture. Each hand gesture represents a different sign of the Zodiac. It's true. You don't believe me? You can look into it, you can research it. You'll find that each different hand movement represents their sign that they are. And it's very uncanny. He knew what he was doing. You got to understand the artists, how they sneak things in there, symbolism, and they make you think. But back then, when they controlled basically what you read and what you didn't read and things like that, he could put things like that in there and you wouldn't notice it because you weren't smart enough and you didn't have the knowledge because they didn't allow you to have it. So it makes sense why most people don't know about that kind of information. So moving on. Let's talk more about the biblical symbolism with 2 most known people, Moses and Jesus. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Moses. So as we all know, when he came back down from the mountain, I believe that the people were worshiping a golden calf. I believe that's what it was, a golden bull calf. Yeah. So they were worshiping this. He got mad. He destroyed it. Killed 3,000 people. Bible kills way too many people for dumbass reasons. I don't know why. Whatever. He destroyed the golden calf, which, this goes with the procession of equinoxes, symbolized the destruction of the age of Taurus into the age of Aries. Look up the sign of Aries. What do you see? What is Aries? If you're Jewish, you know. If you're not Jewish, you should know if you're a Christian and you read this stuff. Aries' symbolic sign is a ram. A ram, right? What do Jews blow? A ram, right? The ram's horn. If you look up Moses and you look up pictures of him in cathedrals and pictures of him in ancient times, Moses always had horns popping out of his head in these pictures because he is the ram. He is the symbolism of a new age Aries. That's what Moses is. Whenever a age comes in, the other age has to be killed off and destroyed in a biblical sense. So as you keep going forward, you start seeing about Jesus and that symbolism. Jesus is after Moses. Jesus is the age of Pisces. Okay? Now, when we're talking about the age of Pisces, we're talking about Jesus being a fisherman. What do they call him? Fishers of men. He fed the multitude with 2 fish. He, if you look at the signs of people's cars, they always have 2 fish. Representing Jesus, who's the age of Pisces. What is the symbolism for Pisces? What does the Zodiac sign look like? 2 fish. Do not be deceived. Understand that the Bible is an astrological tale. You have to look into these things, okay? And then they talk about, him. He was talking about the Passover, and they entered into the house. All right. So as I was saying, and this one could be taken out of context clearly, um, but he was talking about entering the age of Aquarius, which is a man carrying a pitcher of water, and there's a verse in there. I think it's like Mark 14:13, where he's talking about like, what do we do? How do we know the Passover or something like that? I can't remember the exact verse, but he tells them to go into the city and find a man carrying a pitcher of water and enter his house. Most people take that as entering the age of Aquarius because they squeeze little things like that into there for symbolism. Other people believe that it's taken out of context when you actually read the whole verse. So that's up for your interpretation, how you want to believe it. But I don't want to get too far into all this. I just want to give y'all a little, intro into astrology and the Bible and the different things that you could learn looking it up. And, just people who created the book knew the symbolism, knew what they were doing, and knew that average people who would read it like I did back then, would not know the difference. But the priests and people who are higher up in the order knew the fakeness of it, knew what was real, what wasn't, knew the symbolism, knew what it meant. And it was a high honor to know these things back then. So with that being said, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you keep pushing forward for knowledge. Thank you. Peace.